So, 2022 was the year I intended to seriously get into YouTube, but it was an unexpectedly difficult year for me, so as you can probably tell from my upload schedule, that didn't work out. Hopefully 2023 is better, and I have a couple new videos coming up in various stages of scripting, so keep an eye out for that. Speaking of the state of the channel, apparently YouTube's content guidelines are about to get even stricter, which does not bode well for some of the shit I like to talk about. I just do this as a hobby, so I don't really care about monetization at this point, but if any of my videos get yanked, you can find backups on my Odyssey page. Now, I saw a lot of movies in 2022 despite everything, and I finally put together my top 10 films of 2022 list. Standard disclaimer, I'm just one person, I work full-time and have other responsibilities, so I can't see literally everything that comes out, and this is 100% subjective to my own stupid tastes. If you don't like it, you're more than welcome to make your own. Some quick honorable mentions before I start: Decision to Leave, Banshees of Inisherin, X, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, You Won't Be Alone, Babylon, Terrifier 2, and Jackass Forever. Alright, number 10, Glass Onion. It's really difficult for me to pick a number 10, but Knives Out is like cinematic comfort food for me. I was lucky enough to see this during a limited theatrical run in Canada, and I'm sad that more people didn't get the opportunity because it was probably the most fun theater experience I've had this year along with Jackass Forever. Which is kind of an odd combo, now that I mention it. I do prefer the first one slightly, but Glass Onion is the type of sequel that mostly gives you more of the same, but on a bigger scale and some twists here and there. Once again, we have a great ensemble cast, but Janelle Monáe was the standout, and Daniel Craig's Benoit Blanc is such a fun character. I could watch him in like 20 more movies at least. Number 9, Barbarian. Barbarian manages to balance dark comedy and genuine horror and suspense, and also kept me guessing where it was going to go next, which is difficult to achieve. All the new reveals and escalating shit was so much fun to experience for the first time, but I found even more to appreciate about it on rewatch. I also appreciated that it tackles issues like rape culture and gaslighting in a way that feels organic and complementary to the narrative while still being an entertaining genre flick at the end of the day. Number 8, Top Gun Maverick. I have no nostalgia for the original Top Gun. I watched it for the first time once in preparation for the new one, and it was okay, but it is very dated and I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. That being said, I was surprised at how much fun I had with Maverick. The flight and action sequences are exhilarating and well worth watching on the big screen, and I much prefer this more mature version of Tom Cruise's character, and the supporting cast, especially Miles Teller, is really strong too. Number 7, Mad God. Mad God has an extremely loose plot that won't be everyone's cup of tea. It's mostly just this weird, disjointed journey through this hellish, apocalyptic world, through almost entirely visual storytelling. But the world itself was really fucking cool, so I was into it. Mad God has some of the most insane and grotesque imagery I've ever seen in a film, probably, and some deeper themes you could read into it as well. It's a labor of love through and through, and I'm glad that the full version finally got to see the light of day. Number 6, Bones and All. This cannibal coming-of-age drama / romance / horror is a slow burn, but I was into it for the entire runtime. I love the depressed Midwestern feel, and I was surprised at how genuinely emotional it got me, especially towards the end. I've seen some different interpretations of the cannibal thing online, with some saying it's an allegory for addiction or being LGBT or mental illness, but I like that the allegory is open enough that people with different life experiences can all watch it and get something different from it. The cast does a great job carrying this somewhat strange material, but I think Mark Rylance is a stand-up just because of how fucking creepy his character was. Motherfucker was live-action Herbert the Pervert. Number 5, The Northmen. I'm a big fan of Robert Eggers, and while The Northman is his most mainstream film so far, it's by no means a disappointment. As expected, the direction and visual design are impeccable and do a great job of really immersing you into this world and setting. It's a fairly archetypal revenge story, executed very well with more layered characters than you would expect and some subversions here and there. I also loved how the mythological and supernatural elements were included in the film, and it makes it fit in nicely with Eggers' other 2 films, which both have to do with folklore and superstition as well. Number 4, RRR. RRR has got to be one of the shortest 3-hour-long movies I've ever seen. Admittedly, Indian films are a cinematic blind spot for me, and this is actually probably the first one I remember seeing, and it makes me want to look more into them. The action sequences here are fucking insane. There's like 3 or 4 moments in this movie that in isolation would be the highlight of any other action film, but RRR gives them to you all in one package. This is bolstered by the incredibly charismatic lead performances and catchy music, many of which were on my Spotify Wrapped this year. I'm excited for this year's Oscars, solely to see if / how they fuck up Naatu Naatu. Number 3, Everything Everywhere All at Once. I can't really say anything about this movie that hasn't already been said, but as I mentioned before, 2022 was probably one of the worst years of my life in recent memory. And the story and messages here really resonated with me and was something I really needed to see. It's an absurd film filled with over-the-top action and comedy and strange images, but it's anchored by a very relatable and human story with a great emotional payoff. Number 2, Pearl. I really liked X, but to my surprise I enjoyed Pearl even more. While X is a gritty slasher throwback like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Pearl is more of a character study and psychological horror film with the aesthetic of an old-school Technicolor movie, which I thought was a really fun and unique juxtaposition. The lead character and Mia Goth's performance was fantastic, and in a better world she would be nominated for some acting awards. It's also got one of the best ending credit sequences ever, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the final film in the trilogy Maxine brings to the table, because I really love this trilogy so far. If I'm being totally honest, I'd say my top 2 movies this year are tied, but my number 1 movie of the year, and also my answer when people I went to film school with years ago Facebook messaged me out of nowhere asking me to watch their new short films. No. One thing I appreciate about Jordan Peele's horror films is that they wear their influences on their sleeves, but when I watch them I still feel like I'm seeing something new. Nope harkens back to old-fashioned blockbuster spectacle and suspense like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and Signs, but it's very rich in themes and imagery as well. In the more critical reviews I've seen for the movie, I've seen people saying that it's too long or there are subplots that don't need to be there. And while they're entitled to their opinions, I feel that this movie was so meticulously made that everything in it existed to serve its main premise and theme, which I really appreciate, especially in a more mainstream film. It has very memorable and likable characters and a great ensemble cast including Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, and Steven Yeun. It's also got one of the coolest cinematic aliens I've seen in a while, and I had a blast both times I saw it in the theater, and I have a feeling I'll discover even more to love about it when I watch it at home. So, those were my top 10 movies of 2022. I hope you enjoyed it, and please let me know what you thought down below. This is Taylor at Discomfort Films, and thank you for watching.